Thank you so much for joining me for my first episode of Let's Chat. I'm Shayla, and today we're going to be talking about keeping memories alive with food. I'm going to quickly allow the countdown to play and a quick intro, so we'll give people a few more minutes to hop on and join us. We're going to be talking with Aaron Deane, and he has an amazing recipe that is tied to his grandmother, and he's going to talk with us today about how crafting that particular cake just kind of keeps him connected to her and keeps her memory alive in a way that he's able to continue to share with others. So I'm going to quickly play the intro, give a few more people a chance to join us, and we'll be back to talk with Aaron in about a minute or two. Hi everyone, I hope you are having an amazing day. Hello, and thank you for joining me for my first episode of Let's Chat. I'm Shayla Reeves, and many of you who follow my channel already probably know that I love crafting. One of the special things about crafting, of course, is that it not only helps me cope with stress or anxiety, but it also is a way to connect with others and share compelling stories of not only my interest in crafting, but also how other people express themselves creatively too. So today we're going to be having a conversation with Aaron Deane. We're going to be talking about keeping memories alive with food. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up here in just a second, and we'll begin our conversation. And of course, if you would like to join in on this conversation, you'll be able to do that. We'll drop a link shortly. So if you'd like to share your memories, if you can relate to some of our conversation today, be sure to chime in. We'll pop you up on camera for a few minutes, and we'll have a conversation together, because that's the beauty of creativity, is you get to connect, engage, learn from each other, and hopefully take away something, leaving you feeling a little bit full, your heart feeling full once we wrap up our conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Aaron. He'll join us here in just a second. There's Aaron.
Hi.
Hi, Aaron. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday.
You made it. Yes. So I am so excited to talk to you today about your connection to your grandmother, and how you've been able to keep her memory alive through this amazing pound cake. You actually have the cookbook there, her cookbook.
I do. I'll show you it later. We're gonna, give you guys something to look forward to.
Sounds good. So tell me about your grandmother. I mean, when you were growing up, she was someone you would sit in the kitchen with her, and whenever she was cooking, you pretty much soaked up all that information, that knowledge, as she worked away in the kitchen.
Etta Mae Ramey, that was her name. She may have been small in stature, but she was big in love, and and one way that she showed love was through food. And she was just one of those people that just loved to cook, and family gatherings, she'd be the one to cook. Any kind of occasion, even at church, church events growing up, she was one of the people that would work in the kitchen, and she just loved it. She loved it.
And there's just something about food that's so special. I mean, we have memories tied to
Oh
food.
yeah.
Food, it connects us and engages us not only with conversation, but some of our favorite memories may be tied to that favorite meal or something special growing up. And when you were growing up, you actually stayed in the kitchen watching her. And
Yeah.
some people, they're more focused on just eating the food, but you are actually trying to learn how this pound cake came together.
Yeah, one of her best well-known dishes, I guess you could say, was her sour cream pound cake. She would make it for everything. And this wasn't some cake from scratch from a box. We
Yeah.
don't do box nothing. Okay? If it comes from a box, we're gonna use it to prop up a table. But this is from scratch, and it's something that she would do, for the holidays, for birthdays, for somebody, like we did in the video a few years ago. Somebody died. Here's a sympathy cake. People
Yes.
just liked it. One, not necessarily bragging, but in general, it tastes good. But I think what people enjoyed about it is that you could taste and experience the effort that was put into it. And I think that's what makes it so special.
And when we talked about it, those flavors, it's you can
Yeah.
taste the butter and the almond and all.
3 cups of sugar, like, come on. Like, 3 cups. Oh, that's all I'm telling y'all. That's it. But but you can, but seriously, like, it is like a legit, it was like a legit cake with real things in it. Nothing artificial. Everything was very authentic. And I think that, the authenticness of the dish also reflected the authenticness of who my grandmother was as a person. So yeah.
And when you talk about the experience you want others to have now that you've perfected this recipe, how do you want people to feel? I know you've talked about, you hope, even if they don't necessarily taste your cake, you just hope it channels that feeling of, that special recipe, that
Yeah.
special dish that someone maybe in their family made that, kind of reminds them of home, right?
Yeah, literally, it's just when I cook or when I cook a dish that my mom or my grandmother or even my dad made, when I share it with somebody else, I want them to just be like, wanted to literally remind them of like, hey, oh my gosh, my mom makes something similar to this, or oh gosh, my grandmother, grandfather, whomever it may be, they made something that just made me feel good growing up or even as I'm older.
And how important do you feel it is to hold on to those recipes? They're like little pieces of connection to special people in our lives.
I think, when we talk about passing on traditions and memories and things like that, when it comes to food specifically, I think when we cook dishes and we have those gatherings, these are tangible things that remind us of things that we can't necessarily physically touch. It's things that we feel and that we think about. And that's really, what it is.
And for a lot of people, they have different ways of expressing themselves. I know for myself, when I'm feeling down or feeling stressed or feeling anxiety, creativity is how I cope. My creativity isn't necessarily in the kitchen, but is being in the kitchen, remaining connected and close to those recipes from home. Is that a way of coping or releasing stress for you?
First of all, don't play yourself like that, Shay. I'm talking about the creating nothing in the kitchen. Don't do that. You can make some ice water. But no, I mean for me,
It's our ice water.
but I would say, when I go into the kitchen, which is behind me, with my beautiful, subway tile backsplash. But anyway, for me, when I get into the kitchen and I cook, it is in a way a stress reliever. I was, and of course the pandemic has shown that it's a stress reliever, all right. I'm getting a little big now, but it's something about, and we've talked about this too, even in correlating with your crafting. When you find something that you enjoy to do, you feel good when you do it, but then you feel good when other people get to experience it. And in this case, taste whatever. And then that's what, keeping traditions alive in food is all about. It's just about, finding something that you love to make, sharing it with others, letting them taste the love and the effort that you put into it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to quickly show a video for those who may be tuning in. They may not be familiar with Miss Edame Ramey and all the magic she produced in the kitchen. I'm going to quickly pop in this video.
Oh gosh, I was much skinnier than when we did the story.
We will hold it against you, Aaron. I'm going to quickly show this so everyone can meet Miss Edame Ramey.
Spent a lot of time in the church, and what she made in this pan kept everybody talking.
Well, she cooked it for church functions. Somebody died, here's a cake, somebody's birthday. They'd be like, oh, Miss Ramey, I'd love one of them cakes for my birthday. If she liked you enough, she'd make it.
Her pound cakes, a popular treat, crafted right before Aaron's eyes.
I would just be in amazement. She'd get in that kitchen, she'd sift that flour, she'd get that mixer out, she'd just be going. And she wasn't that big of a person either. This little woman just whipping up them cakes and just mixing and beating, getting the eggs together, all that stuff. And I'd just be like, dang, Edame. No. She's gotten there, she made magic. You taste that real vanilla flavoring, that almond flavoring. You taste the hints of the butter.
Crunchiness on top, I like that.
Thank you.
I hope it reminds them of their grandmother or their grandfather, their mother, their father, their aunt, their uncle, whomever in their life made that dish that made them go, really bring them memories of home.
And that, of course, is a special memory or a connection that you have with your grandmother. What was your grandmother like, your relationship with your grandmother like when you think back on it?
I always tell people I was her favorite. And the funny thing is, I was the only one. I'm the only one. So,
so you weren't lying.
Wasn't lying, not at all. But, when I think of Edame Ramey, I think of someone who is, gosh, how do you say that? Poised, someone who is motivated, someone who is strong, loving, comforting, warm. Those are the things that I think of when I think of her. And, it just reflected in everything she did. She worked at a daycare for years. She worked at a bank. I mean, just everything that she did in her life reflected in some way who she was as a person, And
when we think back on the last year that we've had, this has been a challenging year for a lot of people, dealing with loss, unexpected loss in a lot of ways with COVID. And people are reevaluating those connections and those people that are close to them and probably looking for ways to keep those closest to them a little bit near. And I wanted to have this conversation today because life does look a little bit different for a lot of people, or a lot different for a lot of people, because so many people lost those that they love, that they care about because of COVID. And so a conversation like this one is not only timely, but valuable, because life really does look a lot different for people, and they're looking for ways to cope and navigate life as it is.
Yeah, this has been, like I always tell people, it's just been a crazy year, and even a few months. Here we are going into, here we are in the middle of this year now. Can you believe we're halfway through the year? But anyway, through that time, I did the things that I loved in the safest way possible. Whether it was, digging even deeper into my grandmother's cookbook, digging deeper into it, trying different things, that just kept me happy, kept me sane, and kept a few pounds on me. But whatever, it's gonna go away. It's gonna go away. I'm getting prepared for Summer Body 2022. I missed the deadline for that, but we say,
hey, it's okay. I think this year we've got to be a little bit easier on ourselves
Yeah,
because
give yourself some grace. You know, give ourselves some grace. We're in a really odd situation that none of us have really lived through before. So yeah.
so you got to be kind to yourself. And sometimes, you know, when life looks a little bit different, you got to give yourself a little bid of leeway to cope and navigate whatever those changes may be. Did you find yourself cooking more over the last year? And if so, did the pound cake get a lot of love, or did you find yourself cooking new or different things?
So yes, I found myself eating a lot more, but I would say the pound cake, it got some love during the pandemic. Some love. I'd cook it periodically because, you know, people, you know, when I lived, back when we were both in Greenville, you know, people really liked it, you know, and I think during that time, people wanted something that they enjoyed. So, and I enjoyed making it. So, you know, I'd, you know, make it every now and again. But I think for me, the cooking was more of an opportunity for me to get lost in a positive way and explore new types of things. I found a lot of Italian dishes I liked, some Hispanic dishes that I liked, some other cultural dishes that I've never made myself. I tried. So yeah. So the kitchen got the love, maybe not.
The kitchen got a lot of love.
The kitchen got a lot of love. It's got power bill too.
When you're cooking, how do you feel when you're in the zone, when you're making something that you really enjoy, that you are looking forward to? How does it make you feel when you're in that space? I know when I'm crafting, I can really get lost in the moment, and you feel like hours can sometimes pass, and you look at your watch, you're like, oh my gosh, I've been here for 2 hours, 3 hours. How do you feel when it comes to cooking and spending that time in the kitchen?
I feel excited, you know, it's an exciting thing for me to see if what I'm making is actually going to turn out nice. Or just to say, hey, I made it. You know, I made chicken dumplings in the pandemic and made them from scratch. You know, like actually rolled out, you know, got the dough, mixed the dough, made the dough, rolled it out, cut it, you know, all that stuff. I was like, Jesus, you know, but it was so good. But it was good, you know. So really for me, cooking new things really just helps me know that, hey, yeah, I can do it. I can try it. You know, it's fun.
Yeah.
The harm in trying. Yeah, you may be out of $25 if it sucks because you went to the grocery store.
But that's the beauty of it, is creativity really takes courage. It takes courage to try new things, courage to you know, get in the kitchen and say, you know, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but let me see what kind of magic I can come up with, right?
Right. You know, it definitely, I think for me, because I just grew up cooking, you know, cooking doesn't necessarily scare me. You know, where some people I've talked to, they're just like, oh, I can't cook, or I'm just not good, you know, not good at it. And I'm just like, just give it a try. You know, just start with something simple. You know, you don't have to start off with a pound cake from scratch. You don't have to make chicken piccata, you know, or whatever, whatever. You know, you ain't gotta do all of that. Just make some oatmeal. You know, make some grits. You know, just make a little something. You know,
and so really your message is try. Like, I think, and I think a lot of times people, you know, they see the cooking shows, they see all of the magic,
and it overwhelms them, and it's scary. And the thing is, those chefs that you see on TV, they're cooking on their level. Okay, cook on your level. Just start doing whatever you can in whatever way you can, and just build from that. You know. We're not all going to wake up one day and be, you know, emerald, you know, we're not. we're not, you know, so. And so look, there's levels to it. Either you're Shayla or emerald. I'm joking.
Well, by your standards, I'm just making some water.
You know, hey, that's the start. You know, put a little ice in it. Maybe next week people put the light package, see if it blends well, you know.
What is it? Water on the rocks?
Water, there you go. Water on the rocks. Water on the rocks. There you go.
Right. So for folks that are watching, if you know, they had a chance to meet your grandmother, if she walked into a room, what kind of reaction could Miss Etta Mae get from those who knew her?
Oh gosh. Joy and excitement. You know, a lot of people would call her Aunt Etta Mae or Mama, Miss Raimi, whatever, very, endearing, personable terms or handles or whatever on her name. So I think you would just get that warm feeling like, oh gosh, she's here, and people be like, oh, Mister, I'm like, get off my grandma.
You're like, that's my grandma.
You better get off anime, okay?
And so it's like, when you're making that pound cake and you get all of those flavors just right, do you feel more connected to her in those moments?
I would say, yeah. In a weird way, I think when I first started making the cake, I would call my mom and I'd be like, hey, how do I do this or how do I do that? And she's like, I don't know. My mom, I think there was probably one time my mother made the pound cake and it was all right. Yeah, it was okay.
But it sounds like you have like the special touch.
I do.
Mastered that recipe like no one else.
In weird ways, in very weird ways. I think sometimes when I'm like struggling with the cake or whatever, I talk to her. I'm like, okay, Grandma, what do I do? What do I do next? Okay, I messed this up, Grandma. What do I do? And then just like in a weird way, just this sense of just calmness comes over me. And it's like I refocus and somehow I just find the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And when it comes to folks that are maybe dealing with loss right now, we know that COVID has made life look a lot different for folks. What would you tell people? I know people grieve differently. They, it may take some time to get to a place where you're not just in the moment of dealing with the loss, but you're looking actively for ways to keep memories of those you love alive. How would you tell someone who may be a little intimidated about cooking that, this is an avenue you could explore. This is a way you could try to reconnect and try to keep those memories alive of those that you love and you care about?
Yeah, when it comes to loved ones that have like passed away, I'm no grief counselor or anything, but one thing I can say is that, while they are gone in the physical, they're still here, and they've implanted things here. And for me, when it comes to the relationship that I had with my grandmother and even, some of the random dishes that my dad knew how to cook really well, it's all right here. It's all right here. They're still here. So when I tap into, the memories and the thoughts and all those good things that we shared, it just translates into something beautiful that I end up having in the physical, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Because even though they're not physically with us, I think all of those memories, those laughs, those smiles, those simple joys that you had a chance to share with each other. Sometimes you'll find yourself kind of smiling or laughing when you look back on all of the good stuff that
I think when you said that, it reminded me, one thing I did when I was a kid, when my grandmother would make cakes, is that she would let me lick the bowl. Favorite part, she'd take off the little mixers. I lick those, lick the spoon, all that stuff. I cleaned the bowl better than the dishwasher did, Yes. But when I started making the cake, it's really funny because it's funny how the child and the parent switches roles sometimes. Because when I would make the cake, my mom would rush into the kitchen to lick the bowl. She's like, "Oh my gosh, lick the bowl, Aaron," and I'm just like, "Shouldn't I be asking you that?" But for her, that was even a fun, positive thing for her to remember that, hey, I did this with my mom, and now, my mom is still able to do that with me. When I'm at home and I make the cake or whatever. So it's just kind of like everything just is full circle. All traditions, guys. Anyone who's watching, whether you're watching live or recorded or whatever, all traditions come full circle.
Yes.
And that's what it is. Traditions are cyclical. So whatever tradition you have, make sure it's a positive and healthy one, so that when it travels around when it smacks the next person, it provides them with that same good feeling that it gave you when you started it.
Absolutely. I think that is so important and so special. And I know we've got a few people joining us today. Thank you all for tuning in. In just a second, we'll drop the link. So if you would like to come up and if you can relate to some of the stories that we're sharing, definitely pop up. We can pop you up on camera for a second. And we'd like to hear from you. Share some of your special memories, or if something that we're talking about kind of resonates or connects with you or your experience in the kitchen, keeping those memories of loved ones alive. We would totally love to chat with you, because as I started this conversation, we said, remember, join the conversation. So this is all about creating space, not only for us to talk, Aaron and I, to share memories and ways of connecting through food, but it's also a way for you to join the conversation, and we can all kind of grow and learn a little bit from each other. So we'll drop the link here in just a second. Aaron and I will continue to talk, and yeah, we hope that some of you will share in with us. I see we have some comments here. It looks like let's see, Miss Renee is on. She says, Aaron, the cake is wonderful. Wendy is joining us. She says, hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Lynette is joining us as well. She's saying, love your grandma's pound cake. It's awesome that you continue this culinary legacy. And Lynette saying, just stopping in for a moment while I have dinner. And of course, here's a link. We just dropped the link a second ago. So if you would like to join in on this conversation, we can pop you up on camera for a second. And hopefully we'll have a chance to hear from you too, because, you know, it's all about connecting with others and learning, you know, what are some ways that we can keep those memories of people that we love and that we care about going and keep their memories alive. I know there's that saying I've heard before, that there will come a time where the tears that you cry will be replaced by smiles and laughter when you think of those that you've lost. And so it's so fascinating to find those healthy ways. In your case, it's cooking, to keep those memories of people that you care about going, and not only keep them going, but to share that special connection that you have with your grandmother, with new people, with those around you. In fact, I learned about your pound cake when we were both working in Greenville, North Carolina, and you told me about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Aaron, we've got to craft this cake. And
I love Jesus. I got to make a cake.
But I'm just curious, you know, to have someone take an interest in something that was so close to you. I mean, how did that feel for you as someone that is so connected to the memory and this tie to your grandmother, to have someone else express an interest in someone that you care so deeply about, and something that that person shared with you that you carry on, you know, years later?
You know, it was so interesting when you asked, because it's like, okay, people back home in Roanoke, Virginia, that's where I'm from, you know, it's normal for them to ask and talk about it and things like that. But here I was in a brand new city, state, and then here is someone asking about it. I'm just like, okay, all right, cool. All right. And then, you know, we did it, and I was just like, wow, like I just brought my grandmother to Eastern North Carolina. Now, she hasn't made her debut here in Ohio yet, but
he's got time.
But I did want to say, I know when you had posted about this on Facebook, Wendy, I think she's on.
Yes.
She had said, I look forward to this live conversation. I treasure the moments of my mom baking her 7-Up pound cake for family and friends. Following my mom's handwritten recipe and baking 7-Up pound cakes helps keep her sweet memories alive. And that's, you know, Wendy, you have it. You hit it right on the head, you know. That's what it is. We were just talking about it, you know, whether they're with us in the present or the spiritual, whatever, you know, having those things, translating them into something physical, it's really comforting. And it's in a way healing, you know, if it comes from a sad place or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Wendy, you got it. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, and I think Wendy's still in the room. Oh, I think she's in the backstage. Let's pop Wendy up for a second.
You got it.
Hi. Yeah, Aaron.
Oh, I think she's in the backstage. Let's pop Wendy up for a second.
You got it.
Okay, I think can you turn this? I think turn the speaker on for a second, or can you turn the speaker down? Turn mine up. Okay, I think turn your speaker down a little bit. I think turn the speaker on for a second, or. Oh wait, let's see. Oh, she'll probably be back here in just a second.
Okay, now you done got rid of
pick it up through her speaker. I think she needs to just turn her speaker down. Okay, she'll probably be back in just a second. Wendy, if you come back, just turn your speaker down, and then that way we won't get that feedback. So hopefully we'll be able to pop Wendy back up in just a second. But yeah, she has such a special story and a special connection. You have the sour cream pound cake.
sour cream. She
Yes.
just 7-Up. I've heard people make 7-Up pound cake. I don't think I've ever had it. But Shayla, you have a recipe that you gave me that your mother makes. It's a pie.
Oh yeah, it was the chess pie. The chess pie recipe.
Now listen, you gave me the recipe and you told me, Aaron, don't pay attention to this part. Add this much to it. So let me tell you what I did. I made it. It was Christmas when I went home for Christmas that year. Right before the pandemic, actually, Mom and I made it, and I did it based off the actual printed recipe, not what you told me to do, because I won't listen. Anyway, so we tried it, and Mama was like, "Is this what Shayla's mama made her?" And I was like,
"Do it right."
Right. I was like, I hope not. She gave this child water pie, and so then I read the instructions again, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, we did it wrong.
Well, Wendy is back. Hi, Wendy.
I was like,
hopefully Wendy can you hear us okay? Let's see. Hopefully she can hear us. Hi, Wendy. Can you turn us up a little bit, maybe?
Okay. Is that good?
Yes, that's perfect. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Shayla. Hi, Aaron.
Thanks so much for joining us. So tell us how you can kind of relate to what we're talking about today, keeping memories alive through food. Aaron kind of shared a little bit of your story, but let's hear from you.
Yes, this so resonates with me. I lost my mom in 2003. And before that, I mean, she was known for her 7-Up pound cakes. And I mean, all the senses, like, you know, just that smell that's in the kitchen when she's making it. And it's just like, oh, the taste. And then after she passed away, it took me, I mean, years to actually make it, because I mean, it's kind of emotional, and I just, you know, really think about the memories. But just it's something about, especially having that recipe card with her handwriting, and it's like, you know, worn and, you know, folded and everything, and just doing it. And I just felt so great when I actually did it the first time. And I agree with you, Aaron. It's like, even though they're gone, you definitely feel their presence when you're making it. And then when that smell hit me, like, oh my goodness, that's the same smell. And it's like, and then when I tasted it, I was like, wow, you know, and it's just, I mean, it's just such a feeling. First of all, just know, like, oh my goodness, I actually made it. Because for so long, you know, as a child, you just think, I mean, it is like magic. You just think it's something that just your mom can do, you know. Like, I can actually do this too. So yeah.
And really, and if you're missing her, you have a moment where you're just wanting her near, you can create this piece of connection in the kitchen just to connect you even more closely to her in those moments, right?
Yes, definitely. And then my mom, she was such a generous person as well, and helped people. So even I find myself, you know, sharing it, making it, and then giving it to other people, because that's kind of the way she had, you know, a giving heart. So I really feel like I'm continuing her legacy of helping people by sharing the cake.
That's awesome. Aaron, you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, you know, like you were saying, Wendy, it's like the first time you tried, you got a little emotional. I remember the first time I made it from, and similar to you, it took my mom and I a few years after my grandmother passed away to actually like just do it. You know, we had the cookbook, and it was just kind of like, okay, do we open it? You know, what do we do with it? And so when we did it, my mother teared up. when she ate it. And then I remember when I left Roanoke and moved to Greenville, I asked my mom, we were packing up some of the stuff that I had at the house. And I said, Mom, and she was like, yeah. I was like, can I have grandma's cookbook and cake pan? And I mean, you would have thought that like, I asked, I don't know what it was, but she just started crying and crying. And she was like, yes, you can have it. And I'm thinking, like, one, I want it because you ain't gonna do nothing with it, no way. So at least let me have it so I can do something with it, So, the fact that that the cake pan itself and the recipe book have traveled down from my grandmother to my mom, now to me, that's pretty cool. And it's the actual cake pan that she used. So that cake pan's older than my mom. My mom is 62 or one, I don't know, something. Hey, Mama, I know you're watching. Don't join, Mama, because your internet's bad, so it's gonna be a delay. Don't do that.
Miss Myra, you are welcome anytime. We'll pop it right up.
That's it. People start crying. I ain't got time. We ain't got time with the space.
Now, in the video we showed a short time ago, I don't know if Miss Renee wants to pop up as well, but Miss Renee, you are welcome. She co-signed for your cake.
Yeah, she did. Co-signed all across Greenville.
Yes, she co-signed all across Greenville. And we talked about this. Something that you're eating is amazing if you don't even have words. You just make sounds, right? When you're eating it and you're like, how good is this? And you're just, And that was Miss Renee's reaction when she tried that pound cake, because she knew it was something you didn't buy in a store. It was the real deal with the real ingredients that you talked about.
Yeah, just that reaction that that we saw in the video, like just imagine that in person. Like at first I was like, does she not like it? And then did it again, and I was like, oh, I think this means she likes it. And it was just nice. It was one nice, just in general, to have someone compliment what you did, but two, in this case, having it be something so special, it was like, not only did you love the cake, but now you love the creator of the cake, which is my grandmother. You love her too, like I love her. You just love a certain part of her that you just met. So yeah.
And I think it's really interesting. People, when they have their thing that they create, whether it's baking in the kitchen or whether it's, crafting, knitting, sewing, whatever, sometimes people don't necessarily create for the intent of sharing it with someone else. Maybe they create because it makes them feel better, and just creating, whether it's in the kitchen or crafting, however that looks for you. Sometimes people are creating just as a coping mechanism, as a mental health stress release. And there's sometimes that fear, I think, of sharing something that's very close to you. In your case, I don't know if you felt like this when it came to Miss Renee taking that first bite, or sharing that even with me, where it's like, oh my gosh, this is this thing that's really close to me. And, I make it because I love it and my grandmother's close to me, but there's that place of judgment that comes, or that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like opening myself up in a way that, I don't know if other people are going to receive my grandmother.
It's a different kind of vulnerability.
Right.
Sharing anything about who you are or what makes you special is a scary thing. So, I know people are probably like, is it that deep? It's just cake. But, in reality, it's just like, this means something to me. It has a significant meaning and an impact on my life. So, it was kind of nerve wracking. I was like, okay, but then all of a sudden, you guys liked it. So I'm good. Now, let me ask you this, Wendy. I've never had 7-Up pound cake. So can you describe what it tastes like? Does it taste like soda?
No. But it's the lemon flavor.
Ooh, okay.
that really comes up, and I think it's the crispness of the soda that does something when you're mixing it in. So it just has like an extra, just zesty lemon flavor when you get into it.
I was like, now hold on. I was like, I've had 7-Up and I did not like it. So I was like, made 7-Up in it. I said, I don't want no soda cake.
No.
And Wendy, when we were talking a little bit about vulnerability and having that vulnerability to share a little bit of who you are you at a place where you've made your mother's recipe and shared that with other people? Or
Yes.
and how was that? Did you feel very vulnerable when you ventured out to try to recreate the magic and then share it with others?
I did, and especially the time of year. The Christmas before my mom passed away. She passed away in January, so the December of 2002, that was our last Christmas together. So it was really tough, especially, usually people share things during the holidays, and so when I decided to actually make the cake during one particular Christmas and actually give it, to people during that time, that was really tough, because I knew that it's just a special time, especially, between me and my mom for Christmas. But then on the other side, it felt really good, because it's like, well, this is something positive that came out of that time. And it's still, it's, yeah.
Yeah, even with that, as Wendy was talking, I was thinking of something. Those of us on the screen right now, we Black folk, what I'm saying, we African Americans, whatever, and how serious we take food at family functions. I saw this post on Instagram recently. The grandmas and the aunties were outside whispering about their baby sister who put shrimp in the potato salad, and they were just sick and tired. And when you think about it, food also, when it comes to traditions, it can also hold a very cultural significance for a lot of us. When you look at just different cultures, like whether it's African American, whether it's Italian, whether it's Hispanic, the food means something. It's not just here's dinner tonight. This is like, we eat this when we do this. We make this because it means this. And so, these traditions are just more than just repeat and repetitive behaviors. These are things that make us who we are as people, as families, as a culture. Not everyone can make the potato salad. Not everyone can make the mac and cheese. Not everyone's gonna make that pound cake, okay? But what you can make, you can bring the napkins and you can bring the soda.
Everybody has a role, and some people
everybody has a role.
Yes.
Their role might just be putting the ice in the water.
Sure, I'll promise you. I'll let you put the sugar in next time. I mean, geez, but it's true.
Yeah.
Everyone has that role in their family, or in their, whether it's birth family or chosen family or whatever it may be. We all have that thing that we do that adds even more of a oomph to the tradition. And too, Shayla, sorry to ask questions, it's the journalist in me. But when Wendy, we were talking about earlier how the traditions are cyclical. I want to ask you, how do you plan on continuing that, that tradition with, other family members down the line?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny what you mentioned, because I really felt like the highest compliment when I took the pound cake to my husband's family's Christmas. And that's like a huge deal. It's like, they've been doing this for years and years. And so when they tasted it, it was like his aunt, who usually does, she was like, "You made this?" And then she's like, "Oh, you're bringing this." She already put me down for the next year, "Oh, bring that pound cake that you made." So I'm like, "Oh my goodness." That was just the seal of approval. If the elders,
Yes. And it's it's so funny that you said that, Wendy, because my grandmother and my Aunt Pauline are really when it comes to the family, we're like the cooks of the family. Aunt Pauline can throw down, okay? We'd be at her house, it'd be hot upstairs, but we throw down. And the moment that I made the cake, I don't know if it was the first time, second time, third time, whenever I made it, but I let my Aunt Pauline try it. And when Aunt Pauline was just like, "This tastes like Miss Ramey's cake," I was just I did it. I was like, "Pauline Ramsey likes it." I was like, she like it. And I was like, "I did it." Everyone else in the world could say they hated it, but Aunt Pauline said she liked it, so I'm good.
I just got goosebumps when you said that because you passed the test when that one relative or relatives that knows what it's supposed to taste like tries it and they're like, okay, this is Edda Mae Ramey's pound cake.
This is it. This is it. And it's just,
Yes.
like Wendy said, it's like that seal of approval. And you're like, yep, I did it. Yeah, that's me. I made it. See y'all next Christmas. Woo.
Yeah. And if you're just now joining us, right now we are talking about keeping memories alive through food. You have that relative that's close to you that maybe had that one dish, that signature something that at family functions, that function is on because they made that dish. And so some of the folks that are joining us today, I'm talking to Aaron Deane, and right now Wendy Mercer is joining us as well. We're talking about keeping memories alive through food. Aaron doing that through his grandmother's sour cream pound cake. Wendy doing that through her mother's 7-Up pound cake.
That
So
doesn't taste like soda.
yeah. So we're talking about keeping memories and traditions alive. If you're just joining us, I want to quickly play this video so you too, it'll be just a quick minute. You too can kind of get to know Aaron's grandmother through this video. Let me see if I can get this.
Edda Mae Ramey spent
Let's see.
church,
We'll add
and
it
what
to
she
the
made
video.
in this pan kept everybody talking.
Well, she cook it for church functions. Somebody die, here's a cake, Somebody's birthday, they'd be like, oh, Miss Ramey, I'd love one of them cakes for my birthday. If she liked you enough, she'd make it.
Her pound cakes, a popular treat, crafted right before Aaron's eyes.
I would just be in amazement. She'd get in that kitchen, she'd sift that flour, she'd get that mixer out, she'd just be going. And she wasn't that big of a person either. This little woman just whipping up them cakes and just mixing and beating, getting the eggs together, all that stuff. And I'd just be like, dang, Edda Mae. No. She's gotten there, she made magic. You taste that real vanilla flavoring, that almond flavoring. You taste the hints of the butter.
Crunchiness on top. I like that.
Thank you.
I hope it reminds them of their grandmother or their grandfather, their mother, their father, their aunt, their uncle, whomever in their life made that dish that made them go, really bring them memories of home.
And that,
I just wanna
yeah, go
say-
ahead, Aaron.
I just want to say before we continue this conversation that my mother, she really just put some hairstyles on me as a child. Those puff balls, I'm over here looking like Coolio at age 1.5. And she had just breathing my scalp. I still have nightmares about it. I tell people all the time, thank God I wasn't born a girl, because she would just have me puff balled up. I mean, I was looking like baby's kids or something. Lord Jesus. But also, I don't know if you remember, Shayla, when we were making that, when we did that story, how concerned I was about like just every little thing that y'all were watching me do. I don't know what it was, but I don't know. But Wendy, I don't know if you can relate to this too, and even you, Shayla. Do you all have like family members who make those dishes, of course, like we're talking about, that are very superstitious about how you're supposed to do everything? Because I know, like my grandma, of course, like all the ingredients have to be room temperature. You have to put them in a certain order, but sometimes depending on your mood is how the cake turns out. So if you're in a rush, the cake ain't gonna be too good. If you're feeling, whatever your mood is, it somehow translates into the food. And every time my grandma made that cake, she was always happy. Always, even if she was busy or whatever, she was still thankful and joyful that she could make that cake. So I don't know. This is really interesting. But don't mind the puffballs, y'all. Forgive my mama. She did what she could.
Yeah. And Aaron, I know with your grandmother's recipe, you had to make sure you had all the ingredients. And do they have to sit out the night before? I remember you had some special things.
Yeah. So like everything has to be room temperature. That's the only way things can blend well. I don't know what it is. I tried once doing it cold. That cake was nasty. But yeah, so if I make a cake, I may make it in the evening. So that morning I'll just, set out the eggs and the butter and the sour cream and all the stuff that's usually cold. And then usually by the time I'm ready to make it, it's room temperature and ready to ready to go. Now, some things I'm not gonna leave out overnight. I ain't gonna leave no eggs out overnight. That's nasty. I ain't trying to kill y'all. But but y'all know how we do with butter. We got a special dish for the butter that we sit out, you know what I'm saying? So the butter hat was all right.
Wendy, do you have some special things that you have to do? Like, do you have to be in the right mood to make it, or you make it whenever? What's your technique?
I definitely agree that you have to be ready and you can't be rushed when you're doing it. Like, definitely not like, oh, after a long day of work, I'm going to, come home and do this. No, it has to be, when I'm off on the weekends, or just, a time where I know that I have this time dedicated to it, because you definitely have to. I mean, I think that's what makes it taste so good, because it's like you really are putting your heart into it, and you're, taking your time with it. So you can't do it on like rushed. Yeah.
Yes. And if you're joining us and you have something that you can relate to this experience, if you are hearing what we're talking about and you have that special recipe, it doesn't have to be cake, it can be anything. We're going to drop the link again. Or if you just want to say hi to Aaron or hi to Wendy, or just, join in the conversation, we'll drop the link again here in just a second. And you can join in. We can pop you up for a second and make this a conversation. As I said, when this all started, it's all about joining the conversation and creating space for everybody to kind of share their stories, their memories, laugh a little, learn ways to keep memories alive through food, and whatever you want to share. This is a space where we can talk to each other and do that. As I have mentioned before, I think Renisha is on. Renisha Moore says, Aaron, I miss your pound cake and you.
Hey, friend.
And this Renee says, Aaron, you brought so many friends and families together with your cake. And we haven't really talked about that much, but just the connections and the new connections that are formed by sharing this piece of who you are with those around you. That's really special to be able to do that, right?
It's unique. It's unique. And, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like one person tries it, and then it's like word of mouth, and people are like, oh, I tried this really good pound cake Aaron Deane made, and they're like, oh, who's Aaron Deane? And I'm just like, I'm nobody, but it is really cool. And I've never told anyone this, but my mom and my dad make really good dishes, so shout out to my parents, but my mom, she makes, oh my gosh, it's this thing called blueberry yum yum.
Oh, wow.
It is graham cracker crust, cream cheese, blueberry filling, graham cracker crust. It's just layers of just deliciousness. And, it's time for her to make it again. So, Mom, I know you're watching. So when you come here in July, you need to go ahead and pick up the ingredients for the blueberry yum yum. But my dad, let me tell you something.
It sounds like Miss Myra has an assignment, it sounds like.
She has a few assignments. We talked about a few things she has to do today. But, let me talk about my dad. My dad, Arthur Deane, as everyone calls Arthur Deane Jr. I don't know what it was, but he could turn that little box of Jiffy into some gourmet cornbread. I don't know what that man did to it, but it was so good. And he could. I can taste it now. He could fry up some good old pork chops. I don't know. I have never been able to fry a pork chop that well in my life. And, he's passed on to glory now. That sounds so old when I went on to glory. But, because I am. But, that's just another thing. When I think back to my dad's life, he and I, we kept a tradition alive. It wasn't through food, but it was through music, But even with that, like I said, I was even able to think of a few dishes that he made. My mom, we share a lot. That's another topic for another day. But it's just the beauty of traditions extends into so many different avenues. And it is so important for us to remember those traditions, honor them, continue them, make new ones, because that's what family is all about. And just family doesn't always have to be, blood relatives. I have family traditions that I have with close friends, and things like that. So, whatever your family may look like, find something that y'all like as a group and just do it and continue to do it. That's how you build new memories. Every single memory I have as a kid and a teenager, young adult, and now here I am, late 20s, whatever, it all revolves around food or just something. That's where all my memories come from, is food, literally. So, you could be in the music park, a corn dog was in my hand at the time it happened. Food is always there. It is what it is. It ain't what it's not.
Yeah.
I love what you said, Aaron, especially with the cultural, the traditions. It makes me think, have you or Shayla, have you all seen that series, High on the Hog? On Netflix?
You can watch it.
Telling me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, because they go through so many. I mean, that's bring your Kleenex on that too. I mean, just like a lot of different levels. But it's like a lot of dishes that originated in Africa that we, consider part of the soul food that we enjoy today. And it just tells you like how that came to be. And even since I've been living in Tennessee, I always thought that fish and spaghetti was a Tennessee thing. But when you watch this series, it's like a lot of those things originated in Africa, like the things that they had there that show up in what we know as soul food.
Yeah. And I want to quickly, before I miss it here, Anisha just added, it's extremely unique. I think she's talking about the pound cake. I met Aaron on Instagram. I told him I wanted a slice. He brought my husband and I chocolate and regular. He has been my bestie ever since.
That's what we were saying. I don't know what we were doing. I don't know what I was doing. I took a picture of it. I think we may have been filming something. I don't know. But she had commented and said, "Oh, that looks really good." I said, "Well, girl, I'll bring you a slice." I never met a day in my life. Now, Mama, I'm sorry. I went over to a stranger's house, but that slice of pound cake literally created one of the closest friendships that I have today.
Wow, awesome.
Just a slice of cake, built what we have, as a friendship now with, Risha and her husband. They've just been great, great friends to me, especially as I went through my journey in North Carolina. So it's just like, these dishes that we make, it makes memories, but it makes new connections too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And it's just fascinating, the conversation that we're able to have here, how food is not only a way to keep traditions alive, to build new relationships, but as Wendy spoke to as well, the history behind the dishes that we've come to know and love, it sometimes goes back further than we even realize. And there's so much richness in that history that we just consume these foods year after year after year, meal after meal, but we don't really realize always the significance and the history behind those dishes that we've come to know and love over the years.
Yeah, that's so good. And Aaron, too, I was going to ask, do you find also when you share the cake, it's also just another opportunity to share stories, about your grandmother and like about my mother. I feel like every time I share it, they're like, "Oh, did you make this?" And then you can say, "Well, I did, but this is actually my mom's recipe," and then you can kind of.
And then they ask questions about who they were as people, Then you start telling funny stories that you all had together, and it's just, you continue to just, they continue to be with you.
Exactly.
In a brand new way. Like I said, they're not there in the physical anymore, but they're in your memories, they're in your heart. And then when you share that physical dish, you share a piece of your heart in such a good and positive and healthy way. And and those who appreciate it. And it's beautiful. And you create friendships like me and Renisha's. Almost
and I think in a way, that togetherness that you're able to create through food, it's like your grandmother or your mom, in your case, Wendy, it's like they are in a way through this recipe that you all have been able to craft and connect with them. It's sort of like it's bringing you that comfort while you might miss them. It's sort of like a healing thing too, because you're through them and this recipe able to replace that sadness that you may have had with joy and laughter and love and the new connections that are created by sharing that recipe and that dish with new people or with your family members, and all of those stories, then that togetherness that comes from that dish.
Yeah, just know that Edame Ramey is coming with me every state I move to. As I continue through my journalism journey, and career. This comes with me. The cake pan, it's coming with me. She'll always be with me, literally in some way. And I just know that if she was here, she would be smiling, proud, all of that stuff. And I think the same thing for your mother too, Wendy. Just like, wow, like, our babies done, did what they did, and it is what it is, it just,
Yes.
yeah.
That's awesome. And I want to go ahead, if we could drop the link one more time. If anybody else, we've got about 14 people joining us right now. And thank you all for joining us. Yeah, 15. We're up to 15. I want to drop the link right now if you're just joining us and you'd like to pop up. We're talking about keeping memories alive through food. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a recipe or a dish or something you want to share, this is all about joining the conversation. So if you could drop the link one more time, and anyone who wants to join in and chat, feel free to come up and share how you keep memories or traditions alive with your family. Yeah.
Remember, Miss Renee just reminded me.
Yeah.
Remember when I made the cake for Miss Jones's 100th birthday?
Yes. Tell us about that. Miss Rosalie, she's 100. She turned 100 years old, which is an amazing milestone.
Yeah, that's 101.
Yeah, and she loved Aaron's pound cake. So tell us what you were able to do for her birthday.
I made her. Do I have the picture? Hold on. Oh, I have the picture, y'all, on my screen.
Oh, wonderful! Share it. I love to see it.
Yeah. So here's Shayla with that camera all up in someone's face. Y'all know if you know. Yeah, but yeah. So here she is. This was her birthday party. Her daughter Ronita had tasted the cake once, I think, and let her mom. I said, "Here, take a slice, home to your mama," and her mom just fell in love with it. I ended up surprising her with the cake at her birthday party, and then before I moved, her mama said, "Ronita, make sure that young man Aaron on TV makes me a cake." So I made her a cake before I left North Carolina to come here to Ohio, but that's just another example of just sharing, that tradition and it bringing joy to somebody.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you're just joining us, we dropped the link again. We're talking about keeping memories alive through food. And I thought this was a special, important, interesting conversation to have because I learned of Aaron's pound cake working in North Carolina. We were coworkers, and I said, Aaron, we've got to do a craft episode talking about this cake. And so I not only like to craft, but I also like to create space for other people to share what's unique and special to them too. And so I thought this would be such a great conversation to have, not only because, Aaron's pound cake and the story behind it is special, but I think life looks a lot different for people this year compared to maybe a year ago. So many have lost those that they care about because of COVID. When we talk about coming out of the mass and normalcy, there are a lot of people that normal really doesn't exist for them anymore. There may be that person that's missing at the dining room table, or that person that they may talk to every day on the phone that they can't just pick up the phone and call them anymore. And they are dealing with a void that it might take some time to navigate and deal with, but in time, those tears will be replaced with smiles, and people will be looking for a way to honor and keep the memory of those that they care about alive. And so the kitchen cooking is one way that Aaron has been able to keep the memory of his grandmother alive, and then Wendy has been able to keep the memory of her mother alive. Though those losses were not related to COVID, this is just one thing that people can try. If once you get to that place where you feel like, you know, you're in a good place in life and this is something that you would want to try, you know, you can do that. And as Aaron talked about a little bit earlier, don't be scared to just get in there and try. All of these recipes, trying to craft something in the kitchen, it all starts with trying, right, Aaron?
It does. You know, the first time I made this cake, I was terrified, like genuinely terrified that it wasn't going to taste good. It wasn't going to taste like when my grandma did it or whatever. And, you know, it all came together because I just trusted the process and I just, you know, enjoyed what I was doing. It was great. The first time I made it, Mom and I, we were joking in the kitchen, you know, impersonating my grandma, you know, just all those things, you know, and it was fun. It was fun. And I think for my mother, it was a positive healing thing for her too. So, you know, it was great.
And Wendy, I guess you mentioned earlier, it took you some time to a few years, you said even, to be able to get into the kitchen and try your mother's recipe again. But over time, do you feel like that sadness, is it replaced by joy at all when you're able to get in there and connect with this piece of her?
Yes, it definitely is. And I just feel like the more I do it and as time passes on, it's like you said, it's that joy more so than sadness, you know, when you're making it and getting to talk to people and share stories and just, again, I mean, it's just like amazement every time between that smell and the taste, like this is really coming together again. And, you know, it just brings back all those memories. So it's really a joy. It's something that I look forward to.
That's wonderful. And I appreciate you all joining me today. If you could leave all of our listeners with any sort of word of encouragement. Toya is joining us. Thank you so much, Toya, for saying hi, for stopping by. If you could leave anyone that's either dealing with loss, that's new. You have to be kind to yourself, really. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Loss affects people in different ways. And don't feel like you have to hop in the kitchen after this conversation and like, oh my gosh, I got to make something now.
Yes, you do. I'm going to make you some chicken.
But this is just, you know, such a great way, you know, when you're ready, when it's time to, you know, honor those that you love and share a piece of who they are with your friends, create new family and new memories through the experience of crafting that special dish. And if each of you could leave our viewers with just something to take with them when it comes to keeping memories alive through food, what would you want them to know if they're embarking on that journey themselves? You know, what would you want them to know when it comes to keeping memories alive through food?
Yeah.
Wendy, you were first.
Yeah, I'll definitely say definitely baby steps. You know, like you said, don't feel like you have to just go ahead and whip up, you know, these dishes right away. But it could just be something like starting with those recipe cards, like collecting them as you go through, you know, your family members' things, especially you'll come across, you know, a lot of their things that they've written down. And so it might just be as you go through, you know, maybe their notebooks or note cards, just getting all those things together. So when you're ready to make it, you'll have everything you need, or, you know, transferring things or, you know, putting them in albums or a special, you know, sleeve or something to keep it protected. And so it's something that you'll have. But while you're going through it, it's really a healing process, because like I said, just seeing my mom's handwriting just does something to me too. And just being able to hold on to those. So just start with collecting the recipes or jotting down what you remember of, you know, if it's not written, of how they did it.
Yeah, I think too, even with that, I think a lot of times they didn't even know what was in it. You know, They just kind of did what they did and it came out right. And then I think the advice that I would leave those who are watching, I think, you know, like Shayla first, you know, you're talking about, you know, how sometimes people experience loss this past year. But I think when it comes to those things, give yourself some grace during your grief, you know. That's one thing I always tell people, you know, you're going through something, go ahead, go through it. But how do I say it? When it comes to doing these traditions, I know we're talking about food. So when it comes to, you know, keeping these traditions alive that really meant something to you in a sentimental way, I would definitely say just remember why they did it. You know, they did it to share, to love, to, you know, give you something to make you feel good. So the effort that they put into it, you go ahead and put into it too. You take your time, you know, just go for it, you know, just enjoy it. You know, that's what traditions with food are about, enjoying the process. That's why they've survived this long, because people like doing it.
Wonderful words to end with. Thank you both for joining me. And Toya saying hello from North Carolina. We had a lot of great people chiming in on the conversation. Wendy, thank you for coming up. Renisha, thank you for commenting. Miss Renee, Lynette as well. And anyone who maybe didn't comment, but you tuned in for a part of this conversation, I hope something that Wendy said, something that Aaron said resonated with you all. And I hope to, if you like these kinds of conversations, I hope to continue this. So please tell me if you heard something today that resonated with you, if conversations like this are something you would like to see again. Not necessarily this topic every time, but we'll pick different topics. Please share that feedback in the comments, because as I've shared in other videos, I have a passion for crafting and creating. And this concept came about for me after doing a lot of pre-produced craft videos. I know a lot of real connections are formed when we have a chance to have a conversation like the one we've been having today with Aaron and Wendy, where you aren't pre-producing it, you're just talking with real people about real experiences and real life. And I think it's really special because no matter where you live, I'm in Minnesota, Aaron's in Ohio. Am I in Ohio?
I'm in Ohio. How did I end up in Ohio?
And Wendy's in Tennessee. And so, you know, it's a wonderful way to connect with people all across the country. We're all living our separate lives, but connected in a common way to share experiences like this. I have made it my mission for myself to share more of myself with others, because your authenticity shines if you allow it to. And I've learned about myself that I'm a creative deep thinker who loves to laugh and help other people see the best of who they are. So helping others to see the best of who they are, part of that process is creating space for others to shine and share the best of who they are with others. So I'm so excited to be able to have this conversation with you today, Aaron, talk to you, Wendy, as well. Wendy, I did not get a chance to share, but I actually know Wendy when I did my very first internship in newspaper. I was shadowing Wendy in Tennessee, learning the ropes at the Jackson Sun. Yeah. So it's so exciting to be able to stay connected all these years, the power of social media. And so I'm really excited that you have jumped on the call today on this live chat and shared your experiences with all of us, because I think we can all learn something from each other. So if creating this space helps one person either create the comfort to maybe go try that dish, or maybe a different way of thinking about loss, then I feel like we won today in a very meaningful way. If we leave each person or someone with something that they can take away, whether it's dealing with loss or finding the courage to go in the kitchen, maybe you're just starting with putting ice in that water. But whatever it is that is your starting point, wherever you start is fine. It's all about starting. And thank you all for sharing these little nuggets of wisdom that you've learned and collected with those around you. who've meant the world to you, and you've been able to share a little bit of how those connections have grown, changed your life, and changed the lives of everyone you've had a chance to share those recipes with. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Shayla. Thanks, Aaron. And keep up the excellent work, Shayla.
Yay, thank you.
Yes.
And I hope
Thank
you'll come
you.
back and join us. Yes, both of you. Hopefully you'll come back and join us, and we'll pick some different topics to talk about, and hopefully let me know again in the comments if you like these conversations, or if there's something you'd like to talk about that maybe we haven't addressed. I am going to be looking for topics and people, and we'll keep this conversation going because it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to connect with awesome people from around the country and share our experiences, and hopefully help each other along the way and learn something new. All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna eat some chicken. I'm hungry.
Real quick, Aaron and Cher and Wendy, if you'd like to, where can people find you on social media?
Oh, yes. So please follow me on social media. My Instagram and Twitter are TV_DEANE. So my name is Aaron Deane. So Deane with E. Please put that E on the anyway. So TV_Deane. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter.
Great. And I'm on Instagram. It's Wendy Isom Mercer, ISOMMERCER.
All right, awesome. And then I am on Instagram and Facebook mostly. So on Instagram, it's Shayla Reeves TV. And then I'm REAVES, the other Reeves. And then on Facebook, it's just Shayla Reeves. And you'll see me in a yellow shirt on there. But I hope you'll follow, and hopefully, I'll be able to get some more folks on, and we'll tackle some different topics. And then I will create a schedule so that we're doing this with consistency. And those of you who like to join, you can know, okay, I could definitely come to expect content on this day of the week. So thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Friday. Aaron and Wendy, thanks again. And I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.